So I was always taught that you were supposed to date a man not for his potential, and you're not supposed to date him in order to try and change him. And then recently in a dating scenario, I came across a situation where I told a guy, it's your body, it's your health, and it's your life, but I don't want to get involved or date someone that vapes. And he goes, well, I quit for my other girlfriends and I went years without touching it, so I can quit for you. Now in the moment that might sound nice and romantic, but in the grand scheme of things, you are just dating them, waiting for them to change. And if it takes too long for them to change, that'll just essentially cause problems in the relationship.
And
well, it's your preference, lady. You like what you like, but here's the thing. If you're with a guy and him vaping is somehow a deal breaker, then why don't you just leave already? From the way you described it, it wasn't even all that serious. Sounds to me like it was just some dude you were porking on the regular. So if he vapes and you don't like it, then why not quit your quacking and just walk away? All right. That's right, I forgot. Because you want the romantic fairy tale of the prince changing his life just to settle for your average face. It's just another avenue of control that you demand because you feel lost without your illusion of power. Don't you think you're a little old to be wanting the fairy tale story for the man whose bed you warm? I mean, come on, let's face it here. Those eggs are getting nothing but dustier, so I really don't think you're in any position to make any demands at all. Especially when it comes to a man completely changing his lifestyle just to shut you up. Yeah, I'm just being honest here, woman. I don't think you have that kind of time.
Now let's say they get stressed out and they just one day go back to their bad habit, or they have trouble quitting it for many years. You're now wasting your time waiting for someone to change that habit. And I got into a little debate with my girlfriends because they said, hey, if he's willing to change for you, you should give it a chance. But then I started to explain to them that I don't want to be dating someone that needs to change for me just to make sure that we're compatible. I just want to be compatible with a guy from the very beginning. And then I said, well, what if he has a moment of weakness and goes back to his bad habits? I'm just setting up myself in the relationship for failure. Anyways, I just kind of want to know, like, what is your guys' opinion on this?
Let's do this.
Well, I am awfully glad you asked me that, woman, because in my opinion on this question, it's rather simple. You're gonna die alone. There's no such thing as a man that's compatible with you, but that's only because you don't want that man to exist. Your need for pointless drama in your life, combined with your insanely unrealistic expectations, not to mention the fact that you've stumbled from situation to situationship, has left you so broken that even if you did find a guy who's somewhat compatible with you, you're gonna find an excuse to dump him because of his inability to meet the bare minimum standards that you recently updated without telling anybody. You're just more focused on being alone so you can get internet clout instead of just accepting that there's no such thing as a perfect man. Let alone a perfect man that'll compliment you in every single way imaginable. You want a man to change for you, but that's only because you need to feel special. But you're not special. And the sad part is everybody seems to know this except for you.
it's science.
Women at every age have got to start realizing that men know very quickly if they want to marry you. If you start dating a guy and he says, oh, marriage just isn't for me, he is not that serious about you. My dad always told me if a man ever says, oh, marriage isn't for him, he means marriage isn't for him with you. It is always better to face the hard truths about men instead of having a man string you along. And they will string you along for a long time. They will string you along for 5 years, 7 years, no problem, and they will have no guilt about it.
What?
Or, and I'm just kind of spitballing here, men don't want to get married because it requires them to gamble with literally everything they have, including their money, their sanity, and their faith in humanity, in a legally binding financial contract that his wife can break at any time for virtually any reason, and then rake in a minimum of 50% of everything while he's left with nothing except destitution and a massive case of the regret. A man could be loyal to you. He could want to be with you for the long term, but because he's not interested in losing everything he's ever built for himself, in your eyes, that automatically means the relationship is worthless because he doesn't want to make it legally binding. Which just begs the question, financial windfall notwithstanding, why do you care if he marries you or not? What difference does it make? I'll answer that question for you because getting an honest answer out of a modern woman is a lot like trying to squeeze orange juice from a stack of drywall. The difference is his loyalty means nothing unless he's willing to fund a massive party in your honor. That's all we're talking about here. It's just the fact that you want attention from everybody. Nothing more and nothing less.
Women have got to start being responsible for their boundaries, for their time. If a man has not brought up marriage within 1 year, He has not said that he sees you as his wife. He has not shown that he would marry you whenever you're ready. Break up, not the guy for you.
Like, people talking, they say, huh? What are you talking about?
Now, I'm not saying you have to get married after 1 year. As a woman, you can take as much time as you need to figure out if he is a safe guy, if he is a good guy, if he will be a faithful husband. But what I'm saying is, men know very quickly, honestly within a few months, they know if they can see you as their wife. I saw a girl say that her rule is after 2 years, if they're not ready to marry her, she breaks up with them. 2 years is too long. Men know well before 2 years if they're gonna marry you.
And you get a reaction from people who say, huh? What are you talking about?
Hold the phone. You mean to tell me that a man has to bring up marriage within the first year of a relationship, which is incredibly foolish, but you get all the time in the world to determine if you want to get married? Then why are you even obsessed with marriage in the first place, woman? Again, why does it matter? A man gets a year to bring up the subject, but a lot can change in a year. He may have gone out on a few dates with you and thought he saw potential, but then you turn around and go psycho hose beast on him. Does that mean he'll still stick with this initial assessment and want to throw his life away? Well, of course not. That's because a man has to be incredibly careful on who he lets into his life, especially nowadays when we have a veritable army of dusty eggs who want to sink their claws into a man who's just looking for some peace, companionship, and someone to cheer him when he plays beer league dodgeball. But when we're dealing with women who are straight up demanding marriage when they're not even a position to demand a stale peanut butter sandwich, can you really blame men for being a little bit reluctant to want to tie that particular knot?
And if they say like marriage isn't for them, it's just a piece of paper, they're not sure if they're ready, they will string you along as you let them. Never be one of the women that tries to convince a man to give you an engagement ring. Because if you convince him to propose to you, to marry you, you're setting yourself up for a marriage where a man takes you for granted because he was never crazy about you. Trust me, when a man knows that he is crazy about a woman, he does not want to lose her. He wants to marry her. He wants you out of the dating pool. No, you don't have to marry him whenever he's ready, but if he is not letting you know within a year that he wants to marry you, not the guy to keep dating, ever.
What?
Maybe I'm just ignorant, but I really don't see how a legally binding financial contract that is legally recognized by the government is somehow this ultimate gesture of love. A man could be crazy about you. He could want to make you happy and give you a good life for the rest of your life. But because he's not willing to put a shiny thing on your finger so you can go brag to everyone in your horde of barren harlots, that somehow means he just doesn't care about you. And it's that kind of thinking that makes marriage ultimately pointless. Just listen to what you're saying, lady. You're going on and on about how a man must do this ultimate act of love within the first year or else he's just a bum. And that is not normal thinking. You don't even know why you want to get married. You just think that's what you deserve because of whatever politically motivated garbage series you're binging on Netflix. Your attitude just reeks of desperation and loneliness. It's a quaint aroma that mixes the finer hints of acetone with bold notes of a condemned restaurant dumpster.
It's quite pungent.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, it's a formidable scent. Stings the nostrils.
Let him sit there and eat his chips on the couch. Let him play PlayStation. Let him go out with the boys to the pub until 3 a.m. I'm gonna share a story with you where I turned my client from golden retriever to black cat. She initially reached out to me because she felt like the golden retriever after dating for 3 years, not being valued, not being appreciated anymore. She told me in the beginning he always looked after her, got her flowers, got her presents, took her out to dinner dates. He just really made an effort to pursue and chase her. And all of a sudden, he became comfortable. Every day she would come home after a long day at work, to him sitting on the couch, playing PlayStation, crunching on his chips, waiting for her to cook dinner for him. Sometimes he even went out to town till 3 a.m. with his friends, and she would be sitting at home being miserable waiting for him.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
Yeah, that sounds like the typical long-term relationship. Modern women expect that first year of a relationship to somehow last forever. Like, imagine the Gomez-Morticia dynamic, except less genuine and more demands for trinkets and dead weeds. But guess what, sister? After 3 years, yes, there will be some comfort. You'll fall into a routine, and that will mean fewer grand gestures and more of just basic life living. That man is going to snack while playing some PlayStation and going out with his buddies every now and then, but that's how life goes sometimes. But modern women expect the opposite, and such reasons are a mystery to even the intergalactic space god Wimblurum. All hail. They cannot live in a world where they are not the center of attention and receiving daily fixes of never-ending affection, all while being completely oblivious to the fact that she should be giving some affection to her man. But apparently, much like everything else in her life, that is just not her job. So with a future prospect like that, can you blame a man for eating some Pringles and playing some Fortnite? I'm a little behind on the times. Do people still play Fortnite?
So she reached out to me and she said, Anna, what can I do? This man clearly doesn't respect me anymore. On top of that, he also doesn't put any more effort in. He doesn't pursue or chase me. And within 1 month of our coaching, she completely transformed her relationship from being walked all over and being disrespected to now being pursued and chased again. He would literally show up at her work with flowers in his hands just to surprise her. He would take her out to dinner again. He would leave her little love letters. So how did I make that work? And it's not rocket science. I just simply told her to let him. Let him be. And I further explained to her, you have no control over his actions. And it's also not your responsibility to tell him off and force him to chase you again. She tried forcing it out of him, but that never worked.
Wow, that's fantastic work, man. You have the wisdom of a 6,000 or 7,000-year-old man. That's fantastic. We don't have to fill up the whole blackboard after all.
You know, that's some fairly solid advice. If you've reached the point in the relationship where things are stable enough that there's no need for romantic gestures, then yeah, just let him live his life and you go live your life and you'll reach somewhere in the middle, is what I would be saying if this wasn't advice coming from an obviously single dating coach. And if there's one thing we all know about obviously single dating coaches, is that they cannot give out any form of advice that's either irresponsible, inaccurate, or passive aggressive to an unhealthy degree. The right way to approach this is to accept that the relation dynamic has changed and has moved on to the next stages. But this just sounds like you're giving him the silent treatment and making him feel guilty for having his quiet time. And by making him feel guilty, he's just gonna turn around and buy your affection with jewels, flowers, and free expensive dinners. And if that's what it costs to keep your loyalty to a man, then I pity that man. Because these rants make it obvious that you're doing nothing for that man to make him feel appreciated, let alone desired.
He's not gonna just magically wake up one day and think, oh my god, I need to put my energy into her. She could only get his interest back by putting all that emotional and mental focus that she put into him back into herself. So when he chose to go to the pub with his boys until 3 a.m., she didn't call, she didn't message, she didn't check in with him. She just simply went to bed and slept. She stopped waiting like the loyal golden retriever, miserable waiting for him to come home, and just simply went to bed. So all of a sudden, he was sitting at the pub with his boys, starting to miss her. He noticed the change in her dynamic.
Give me cancer now, guy! Yep. Passive aggression and guilt tripping, the cornerstone of any healthy modern relationship. We're probably throwing in some gaslighting and some omission of key details as well, just for good measure. You know, it's kind of funny how these women will constantly be telling on themselves. All we need to know is that it's never the woman's fault for the change in the relationship dynamic. It's always the man just doing his man things and living his man life while simultaneously not being a man. He's never doing enough. It's always him making her life miserable. And even if he tries, it doesn't matter, because he didn't do the right thing the right way, so therefore it's still his fault. Modern women just expect the fairy tale to never end, and when it inevitably does, it's because we live in reality. She'll just blame the man instead of being a mature adult. Instead of just addressing her concerns in a calm and mature manner, she just goes all passive aggressive like a child. And instead of working to make the relationship stronger, she wastes her money reaching out to a professional life failure whose advice is about as fresh and useful as her ovaries. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button. Ring the notification bell and leave a couple of comments, and make sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, guys, and until next time, peace out, homies.